Well, when you're talking about usefulness of weather forecasting, I'd like to go back to 1999 when Super Cyclone took place in Odisha. And I remember that around more than 15,000 people died, and that entire region was out of any contact with any other neighboring region. So after that, what has happened is there has been significant improvements in terms of atmospheric science, and that resulted into improvements in weather models. 2021, we received another cyclone, which is of exactly similar intensity. The name of the cyclone was Amphan, and around 100 people only died. Of course, we do not want any kind of death, but it shows that 15,200. So that's the power of weather forecast, and that's the power of science. This is something which we never give much highlight, we never say about it, but this is something which I feel is a scientific revolution which didn't get much of attention. And this is what is weather forecast: the science and implementation of science and taking action based on science, that is saving people's life, and that is what is weather forecast, and that's the way it is useful. So when you're talking about weather means short duration of atmospheric state. So it essentially talks about 1 to 3 days or slightly beyond that, for which we have very good predictability. So we have predictive power, we can run models and we can ingest initial condition. That means, let's say if I have to forecast for next 3 days, we have to ingest 2 days initial condition and run the model and try to find out how the weather will look like tomorrow, day after tomorrow, and so on. And one of the good part is that these days everyone looks at weather forecast. 20 years back nobody really looked at weather forecast. Nowadays everyone looks at weather forecast, trying to understand if next day would be a heat wave or an extreme precipitation and so on and so forth. So it has huge impact on people's life and making people, I'd say, weather ready.
Sir, how do you feel? What are the current challenges and issues with the weather forecasting techniques that are currently used?
Well, weather forecast, of course, we have to understand one of the thing is that forecast is not observation. So you cannot expect that forecast will be exactly equal to observations. And forecasts have their own scientific challenges, which are sometimes issued associated with predictability, sometimes also with the location of India, which is tropical region where the predictability is quite low. Hence, getting a very good forecast over this region is a challenging task. Secondly, the other important part is when you are going for weather forecast, you should have very good initial condition. And when you have very good initial condition, you should have very good monitoring stations across the country. A better weather forecast will be much better if you can cover the entire country with radars, and so on and so forth. But at this stage, we do not have that. Of course, few years back, Ministry of Earth Science has come up with the concept of har har mausam har gar mausam. That's a very good thing. That means what we need is that we have to monitor each and every spot of our country and use them in a forecast and develop the forecasting system that can give forecast at each and every location, at your house or at your home. So that kind of thing is really needed, but they are challenging because first thing is that computing power, because if you have to run weather forecast models, you need high performance computing facilities, and they are really challenging because only a few organizations in this country have that sort of high performance computing facility. Others may have, but they cannot run it on operational mode, and there are many other issues. But IMD has been doing a great job in terms of providing very good weather forecasts across the country, and there are other organizations as well, and there are private organizations, they are also coming up. So in that way there has been a lot of improvements, but still challenges. First one is initial condition or data. Second one is each high performance computing facility. Given computing facility is a challenge, one of the good part is that data science is coming up quite fast. For example, Google DeepMinds are coming up with their GraphCast. They came in 2023, which became a science magazine paper with science cover page and so on. So a lot of companies, a lot of industries are coming up with their data science models. Once these models are trained, they can run even on a PC. So that is bringing another level of revolution that will democratize the weather science, so that anybody, starting from a kid who is going to school or college, to an elderly or to a retired person who has who is retired and who would like to do something with his own computer or laptop, they can also run weather model and see what exactly is happening. I know there are a lot of weather enthusiasts, and they can do all this kind of experiments. So I would say that weather forecast has made tremendous improvements. Now with data science, it will further be democratized, and this will be part of life of everyone.